in. They would have to social distance and wear a face mask, but the door is open. I'm physically here at the East Annex building. So I'll let Clifford start the meeting.
Okay. Can I have a roll call, please?
Clifford Griffin,
Here.
Jeff Atwell here, Kimberly Byrne,
Here.
Mike Sinde,
Here.
absent Eric Frausto, Vonda Harding, and Joseph Watkins.
Okay, with
We
that,
have a quorum.
we have a quorum. Let's first of all, let's get a little old business out the way. First of all, with the last month's meeting, minutes from last month's meeting, do I have a motion to accept it? Did everybody read it?
I so move to accept the minutes as presented.
I will second it.
Second.
Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Clifford Griffin,
Yes.
Jeff Atwell, yes. Kimberly Byrne,
Yes.
Mike Sinde.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Well, let's move on to the business at hand here, which is a application for a variance on 1964 Vermont Street. And the person representing that is who?
Daniel.
Good
Go
evening.
ahead.
My name's Scott Marsick. I'm the attorney for Mr. Lozano. Mr. Lozano is here via Zoom. He's in one of these boxes. I think Danny's his son. He's going to do some translating for us.
Okay. Well, do you want to give us an overview as to your issue and what you seek here this evening?
We are seeking a variance of 8 parking spaces. The issue is that the zoning for the lot that this restaurant sits on, it requires 1 parking spot for every 4 seats. The restaurant originally had 100 seats, and the parking lot originally only had space for 8 vehicles. So it was 17 spots shy of where it needed to be. What we've done in the meantime, as we've been working on this, is work to both find other ways to increase the spots that are available and also to decrease the amount of seating that's in the restaurant. And we've come up with a combination of both that leaves us seeking a variance of 8 parking spots. The owner, Victor Lozano, has reduced the planned number of seats to 72 in the restaurant, meaning he would need 18 spots. There's going to be some rearranging of the lot in order to accommodate 10 spots instead of 8. So that puts us at 8 shy, which is where we are. We have done a significant amount of work to look at other options for further increasing the available space. We've sought other areas in the near vicinity with possible available parking spaces and approached owners who perhaps find some sort of agreement where we would be able to lease some of the spaces that they have. We struck out at most of the places we tried, which was a school nearby, a church nearby, smaller businesses. There is Manny's Market, which is directly across the street from 1964. And the owner of that originally said that he was not open to any sort of arrangement where we could rent some of the spaces. But recently he informally agreed that in the evenings, the restaurant would be able to use some of the spaces as long as it was done by a valet attendant. And I forgot to mention another thing that we have discussed doing is setting up a valet service so that would be twofold. One, it would allow obviously the valet to park cars in different areas. Also, we would be able to do some sort of stacked parking in the back of in that lot that's at the restaurant in order to further increase the parking that's available. So that is what we have been working to try to do. There were a sort of side story to this whole thing was the very serious problems at the old restaurant presented to the community. There were numerous complaints, things related to noise and security, and I think parking was even a problem. And as we've been working towards figuring out this parking situation, the owner, Victor, has also been preparing to establish a restaurant that is a net positive to the area around it rather than causing the headaches that the old restaurant caused. So that's all to say that we're very cognizant of the issues that have been there before and committed to not repeating those mistakes in the future. And I know Howard put together a long report here for you to review. I'm going to ask Victor to say a few words about what the restaurant's going to be. If you have any questions for either of us, please fire away anytime. Thank you.
Okay. Is he available to do this?
Oh yeah, he's right next to me. He's my dad. He basically told me what the restaurant, like the image that he wants to be. If I'm able to speak in behalf of him, that's okay.
Victor, can you state your address for the record, please?
I'm here. Oh, my address or the restaurant address?
Your personal address.
Oh, my personal address is 2347 South Candeson, Berwyn, Illinois.
Okay. And can you go on and explain to us exactly what it is that you want to do?
Okay. I have a couple business in Chicago, and I give you opportunity to this restaurant to open to my son. This is why he put it in the file, the application, the house name, because I want to give you the property. I mean, I have business in Chicago, and I'm in investment, and I don't have time to manage it, to use it to open the restaurant. This is why I give you to my son opportunity to start this building. And I'm gonna explain something. And this restaurant is working before for a long time, maybe for 10 or more years. It's open. And when I'm rent to the restaurant to La Sirena, and the guy, the owner, the name, he uses the parking for the personal cars. This is why before you have a lot of claims, because the people not use the parking restaurant because the owner before the name, he used it for the personal cars. So I can open that. I don't know what the name, the other people he working in the city. He want to open for 7 chairs or 7 tables. The restaurant is too more big one to pay 20,000 the taxes, the house, the property, 20,000 plus maintenance, gas, electric, employee and everything. I'm thinking I'm gonna spend more than $10,000 a month. And he gave me opportunity for seven tables. It's not working for that one because I'm gonna spend more than $10,000 per month because it's a big one. And I'm trying to. I'm an investment. I'm trying to find to the other houses behind to that way to use it for parking. Right now, the neighbors, nobody sell the houses right now. And I'm trying to find something.
Yeah, that's the plan for the future. As soon as we can get a hold of any lot or any house that we can convert it to a parking space. The main problem we think we happen is, like he said, the Sirena owner was using the parking lot as a personal usage for his cars. So the clients were parking on the streets versus at the parking lot. So I'm sure you guys did get a lot of complaints. We didn't find out this until they were leaving the building. They never told us that they were having all these issues about the parking lot. We even had to tow away some cars that they left in there. They were.
So this business is closed now for 1 year and a half. And I'm paying, I told you, I'm paying water. I'm not using the water. And I'm paying taxes. You know, and I can open the restaurant right now. And I'm trying to find something solution for the customers and for the neighbors. And I'm talking with something the building. And I want to use it valet parking for Friday, Saturday when it's more people, You know what I'm saying? When I'm check the business, when I know I need to check it out what time the customer is coming more. In this time, I want to use it valet parking for more better for customer, for neighbor, for the city, for everybody.
So to answer your question of what this restaurant's going to be, think of it as the last restaurant. So they're now with all the entertainment and great quality food, but without the matters at hand that happen with the neighbors, with the parking situation. We don't want that. We want to be in good contingency with the neighbors as well as the city to further continue increasing our business in Blue Island, because as my dad said, he has given me this opportunity to manage this restaurant, and I want to keep it family owned. And every other customer that comes in, I want to welcome them as a family. And as further time goes on, pass it on to my son. His son passes it on to his son. So I want this restaurant to be, apart from being, it has its bar, dance, I want it to be a place where people can come and feel like they are welcomed and they're treated as family.
I understand.
Okay,
Can both of you entertain questions from the other commissioners? But I have one before I turn it over to them. And that is, I noticed that you said that you were searching valet service and you got an informal commitment from whatever the name of the place is. Are they willing to sign a contract to that?
It was Manny's Market, and I don't, to be totally honest, he has been opposed to signing anything. He budged on a more informal agreement. Perhaps he will eventually budge on signing something. To this point, unless there's been a development that I'm not aware of, I don't think we've gotten him to agree to sign anything formal at this point.
One correction, it's Danny's with a D, not M.
Oh, it is
Manny.
Danny's. I thought it was, okay, Howard was correct in his report. I always thought it was an M. That's my fault. Sorry.
Yeah, just one small correction. Okay.
Okay, would you please accept some questions from the other commissioners, please?
Of course.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, do you have any parking restrictions at your current restaurant? Is there any issues you have there in terms of parking? Obviously, you've owned it for a long time. You see the ebb and flow of customers coming in and out. Is there a peak demand Friday? Is it peak demand Thursday because of certain specials? How does that work for your current restaurant?
So it definitely, as in the previous, it always would peak on Friday or Saturday because that's when the live entertainment would be. And so that's when all the influx of cars and people would come. So with Danny's Market, we would valet, and because he specifically said he wants us to valet because he doesn't want the customers just to park there. He wants to sign and valet. So thus, we are gonna valet the cars there. Further on, I will say, I've been speaking to him personally. He would sign an agreement, but his brother would have to be present. But the problem with that is that his brother does not live in Illinois, and it would have to be a certain time and date that we would have to set up with him and his brother. His name's Bobby, by the way. So Bobby and his brother, where we set up a certain time and day where we can discuss an agreement where we pay rent or provide food or anything to have that as a written agreement for us being able to use his parking spots. So we don't have that problem that occurred in the past.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have some questions.
Sure.
Mr. Alonso, I greatly appreciate that you want to bring business into Blue Island. We're a nice community and we want to stay that way. And we appreciate the challenges that your former restaurant had. And but that also leads to sort of what are your thoughts about how to control some of the challenges that you had in the other restaurant, other than parking? As I understand, there were some noise issues that the neighbors were having a problem with. I don't know if it's live music playing. Is that considered noise to the neighbors? Is people leaving very rowdy, leaving and kind of being a little loud? Is that considered noise? That would be one of my questions as it relates to trying to address the noise issues as they were addressed before at the prior restaurant. Another consideration is, according to the information that I received, employees will be parking outside of the parking lot and the immediate parking area. How many employees are you anticipating to be hiring? And if you're bringing more than employees into and customers as well as entertainment, where are they parking? So that would be a consideration. I'll start with those two. I do have a few more. Can you respond to that, please?
Okay, so as far as the noise goes, definitely install foam on the inside, and as well as on the outside, we would have 2 security guards. We'd have to be paying them $50 or $75 an hour. They'd be armed security guards. I've already looked into it. One on the outside, one on the inside to keep control of people being a nuisance outside, as well as loitering. So just to keep the people moving, get in their cars and move on to stop the disturbance of peace. As far as employees goes, it's very hard to tell because right now we don't know if we're gonna have 40 seats or 40 seats or 72 seats. So if it's 40 seats, it'd be like maybe 2 waiters, even 1 waiter and 2 in the kitchen. Or if it's 72, we would have 2 waiters or 3 waiters and 3 in the kitchen. It's very hard to tell at this time.
But your anticipation is that these employees will be parking somewhere out in the neighborhood. Is that correct? So there's parking spots are not included in these 18, or the total 18 at this point, right?
So
Okay.
we have
My
Don Martin, Don Wright has a piece of land where they would be parking.
Okay, Don Martin Navarro, he working in the city Blue Island for maybe more than 20 years. He's my partner. We have business in Chicago. This guy, he sell me the restaurant because we change something. In Navarro, he have a parking. The inspector, he knows where he have a parking. And the problem, he say, is a little far to the restaurant. And I want to use this space for all the employers. You know what I'm saying? And maybe when I need more a little parking, I can. Doesn't matter wherever it's a little far. This is why I'm gonna use it valet parking. Navarro, he working in it's a Don Ryan, the company. Don Wright.
Okay, so to summarize that,
Sorry for my English. It's not very easy to speak a couple languages. You know.
No, I understand. I want to understand your point.
Okay. And you know what? I'm finding other, ¿cómo se dice el terreno?
There's another lot.
I'm finding other land. It's because the problem is he don't have a street for the restaurant there.
Doesn't have an entrance.
No enter in this space, and maybe I'm gonna use and I want to buy this property for my employer. Right now, I can making money in Blue Island because
You don't know.
I don't know nothing because the city, he closed my restaurant for 1 year and a half and I pay taxes. This is why I don't want to buy houses or for my employer or whatever, because I don't know nothing to the city right now.
Right.
And I need to know what I want to do. When he give me an opportunity to start to working in Blue Island, I want to thinking about it for investment there.
So
What I think what we're really looking for is, when you open the doors tomorrow, what is it going to look like? What can we expect to understand about that?
Oh,
Is that about right?
as in like aesthetic wise or
Well, no, I mean from a parking, from a noise, from a. I think it's again things change over time, so we can't look to the future. So the idea is, you know, for the immediate future, what can we expect? You know, day one, 30 days, something like that, as far as what you're planning and thinking is relating to parking.
You mentioned armed security, 2 armed security at the restaurant. Do you have armed security at your other restaurants?
we this is the first restaurant. My dad owned it previously. He just collected rent. Right now that he's taking over, and that's why we're gonna put security inside and outside to keep control of the people so they're not too noisy, get them moving. I mean, you see this at the bars in Chicago. When people are too packed, they tell them like, come on, let's start moving. And people are gonna obviously obey to the security.
So can I interject for a moment?
Sure.
Because Victor Lozano is talking about the property at 2140 Vermont, which is a vacant green property. It's in between 2 residential buildings. One is a residential apartment building and the other one's just a single family house. The zoning ordinance does not allow for this type of parking when it's past distance. So you can't have unpaved parking for, let's say, the employees, what he was suggesting, in an area where you have residential. The only time that could happen is if it's less than 250 feet away from the restaurant, and let's say it's in a mixed-use area, C1 or UTOD, which allows for that flexibility. But here, as you move away on Vermont going east, it becomes predominantly residential. This intersection is kind of a unique one because you have commercial on 3 sides.
Okay, the employees, nobody knows because before a lot of employees live in Blue Island.
They just walk.
These people walking. And I don't know the fusion. The people have car, bicycle, use the bus. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make a solution for maybe the people have cars. I can buy to the lot. I'm trying to make it work. Make it work for something. The restaurant have only 1 bathroom, 1 seat, and I'm trying to open for 3. I'm trying to make a more good service for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Understood.
When you give you something more service, more good service, it's more better for everybody. I'm trying to make it give you good service for everybody. This is what I'm trying. Good service for employees, good service for.
That's why I said, you know, thank you very much for bringing, you know, this business to Blue Island. We greatly appreciate it. But we want to make it a good situation for everybody. I had one more question. There's a patio in front of the restaurant. What are your plans as it relates to that space?
No, that's gonna be purely aesthetic. There's no seating gonna be out there. So our plan for the patio, so where the gate is to enter, there's gonna be a wooden bridge, as if you're like walking by the sea. Sand's gonna be on the side. Speakers with waves crashing. We're gonna have what's it called? Like an octopus figure where kids and their families could take pictures and post it, Puerto Mariscos online for further marketing. Palm trees, and on the inside have like a boat. I mean, as far as the patio goes, it's just going to be purely aesthetic wise.
Okay.
Anyone else?
El restaurante, el cocinero, el chef, es el de Chicago Bears.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Is this the right time to, I understand that we're discussing the opportunity potentially for valet parking, correct?
Yeah.
Is there a company that has been identified that you have identified to work with for this purpose?
Yes, they're called BSA. As a matter of fact, the owner of BSA, I'm very good friends with his son. I go to his house every other day. I live with his son at Arizona State. They provide valet services, but the main thing they do is cleaning, but they also provide valet services, and they have a valet license.
Do they have a valet license in Blue Island?
I would have to check up on that.
Okay. And they would, of course, need to have some good insurance if they're going to be moving cars around
Yes.
either on your property or other people's property.
Yes.
So that would be very critical.
Yes. I mean, they definitely have great insurance. They clean all the stadiums and hotels that you could think of in the Chicago area.
Okay. Unfortunately, they have to be, have a business license in Blue Island as well.
I mean, if that is needed, we can definitely get the ball rolling on that. I mean, if it's just to get the license for us to be able to open this business, we don't see that as an issue. We'll just solve the problem and move on.
And that's basically just for the valet on the parking area, the current property. If the valet is going to be using other properties, such as Danny's Market, there really does need to be a written agreement. There are liabilities that could happen. It could be anything. It could be stolen property. It could be break-ins. It could be anything. But insurance and an agreement really is the right thing to do from a business standpoint to protect you and your business, as well as to protect Danny and his business, in his good faith in offering that space.
Well, it is in the ordinance that they have to have insurance. They have to have a business license here in the city of Blue Island, as well as some other stipulations. So, that's something they need to check out. Howard, you going to say something?
Yeah, I forwarded a copy of the valet parking to the attorney, which is usually done during the building permit review process, the business license application. And I have a physical copy here, and it goes into great details about, transfer zone, parking spaces, insurance, lots of information on the valet and all that. So that will most likely be captured at that process. But as a group here, the group will need to make some type of a determination, because in the original application, it was going to be like a 2-block radius. For 2-block radius from this property, would be High Street in the north, Lincoln Street or Honorary in the east, Hoyne Avenue west, and then of course, if you go further south, you have the Grove Street parking lot, which is one of the things mentioned in the valet parking that could be used. So as a group, this needs to start to materialize now. Where is the proposed parking going to be taking place? At Danny's, on the street, or at the parking lot?
Right. What is being proposed?
As of right now, we'd say Danny's, and if we do not get the written agreement, which honestly I feel like I personally have talked to Bobby, and he said like he would be glad to sit down and write an agreement, but his brother has to be present. So like I said, I'd have to set a time and date for that, because his brother, he comes on maybe every other 3 months or other 2 months. It's very hard to tell. As far as if, let's say that doesn't work, we can also have stacked parking. I believe where it'd be 2 on the street right next to the restaurant, and 8 and 16 in the back, stacked parking with the valet.
Well, in my staff report towards the end, under additional staff recommendation right before the attachment, I used a Google map, and I put what looks like would be okay in stacking. I calculated 15 cars, which is right here. This is the one
Yes.
in the report. I calculated 15 cars, but then the dumpsters would have to be moved towards the building because where the dumpsters are currently located, it eats up space that could be used for parking. Now comes the question, there's a rear door at the back, so that can't be blocked. So if the door cannot be used there, there might be a door needed here or on the side. And what I showed here on Division Street was the 3 parking spaces that could be used, right? Because on Division Street from the intersection of Vermont, moving north, half of that block next to the restaurant, there's a no parking sign.
Okay, and the website, in the restaurant, it's a three space for the restaurant parking in the street. And the website, in the front side, he have for 4 parking too. It's 7 people in the street.
Right over here. Looks like you have enough for 2. But then this area towards the intersection, there's no parking. No standing.
It's for 3 people because I am a student in Mexico and I'm an architect and I know the mirror with the cars. It's for three cars in the west side and 4 cars in the front side.
Could,
Well,
I understand the situation with the no parking sign.
yes.
Can that be modified just to accommodate the restaurant? Would that be possible?
This could be accommodated during the valet application process,
great.
during the business license application. For
Okay.
example, the valet ordinance requires that you have some kind of a staging area where people are going to drop the keys off, dropping off the cars and for picking up the cars, right? So maybe those 2 spots where currently you're not allowed to park could be used for that. Or
in the front, this for sorry, that's okay. You're right.
Right. So
that was one of my thoughts as well. You really, if you're going to use the street for valet, you really need to set aside specifically with signs that parking area is for the restaurant, so other people can't park there.
Right, so a valet parking plan has to be submitted with the ordinance. And then the valet parking is the location of the transfer zones, the actual parking spaces that are shown in the reserve for the valet parking when you drop off the keys. Valet parking, circulation routes, pattern, time of valet operations. So, and numbers of valet employees used to use this operation. So all of it is in the ordinance. This ordinance, the valet ordinance from 2014, is not part of the zoning code. It's a separate standalone one. So eventually that needs to be filled out in conjunction if the board approves a parking variance.
I have one thought additionally. I know that, there's the idea, and maybe this is a discussion after we see the valet parking plan, but things change. And one of my concerns is you'll want to be maybe flexible. So if there's any way that in your plan, your valet plan, you also have a conversation with Danny's Market to open up that opportunity as well. When weather becomes bad, things are going to get a little more difficult for parking, whether it either be on the lot or out on the street. So any plans that you can make for a little extra space or flexibility, I highly recommend maybe you consider that. We're in warm weather right now, so we don't think about the weather. But once the snow starts to fall and you want to be able to offer parking to your customers, things change.
We are going to continue to be as flexible as possible, and even beyond the final stage, I think the idea is to be accessible. So if something comes up a few months from now in the winter or whenever, and there's an issue, we want to be reachable by residents of the area, members of the city council, at any time in order to alter whatever it is that we're doing to make sure that no problems are being caused.
Sure.
Give me
Well,
names.
just to be sure, just so I'm clear, right now you have no agreement with anyone on valet parking. It's just a conversation you're having.
That's correct.
There's no formal agreement with anyone. Okay.
I can sign an agreement right now with somebody else because I don't know what's going on with the city because the restaurant is closed for 1 year and a half. I need to know because the valet parking he know how many people is the restaurant for how many employers he gonna send. This is why I can sign to the contract right now. I don't understand. This restaurant is maybe for open for 14 years, 15 years. That one before no have nothing complaints in this restaurant, in this working in this restaurant before. Only he had complaints with the La Sirena in the last 2 years because the owner, the name, he parking all the cars inside, the personal cars. Before the city no had nothing problems with the parking and the restaurant is working for a long time there because you have a lot of parking there in the street. When you go to we are in the Vermont, when you go driving to south side, it's empty. It's not too much houses there. You have a lot of space to park in there. The restaurant before no had nothing problem. That this restaurant is working for a long time. Only when I'm running the restaurant La Sirena in the last 2 years or maybe last year, he making complaints because the owner he parking a lot of cars, army cars, trucks, and all employer, and not have nothing parking for employer for customers.
I think the one big change here was that Sanders School used to be available for parking. You know, customers used to park at Sanders School, and now the school district took that back over and fenced it off. So that will be no longer available. You know, that's one concern because that was a, very close proximity, and that was where previous customers would park because it was basically vacant. And now that's being used again by the school district, so that will no longer be an option.
We would actually try to buy the lot from them because it's vacant. It's now no use. I mean, if it owns by the city, I don't think they even paying taxes there. So we kind of try to reach out to them to try to buy the lot, but we were never successful with that. We couldn't talk to anybody. Nobody could give us any reason as to who to talk to or who to call to, but we're more than willing. If it's any lot available that you guys even know about it, we're willing to buy it.
Yeah, that parking lot is owned by the school district.
Right.
And they're now reusing that school. They're turning into offices.
Right.
So
they're
that
turning
is
into
actually not
offices.
an option.
Right, they're turning into offices. They've submitted a site plan. It's going to have security fencing. So there's going to be nobody allowed to park on that site, which is being reviewed internally by our office with the civil engineer. So the Sanders, it's true. It's being reactivated, reused.
Yeah, so Sanders Schools, unfortunately, is not an option. Is there anything further east, closer to the park or to, I don't know if that's too far away? I'm thinking the mechanic right there has parking and, anything along that, a little further east.
How about, I was thinking by the bridge. By the bridge, there's no houses there. It's not, how far is it? But
1 block?
Yes.
2 blocks.
And we've been there
1
at
block
night and it's always empty.
Yeah.
But since we're gonna have valet parking, I know customer may not want to walk a block or 2 away, but since we're gonna have valet parking, we can probably, when it's needed, of course, take the cars and park them over there if it is allowed by you guys, of course.
Are you talking about the metro parking?
No.
No.
Grove Street parking lot next to the apartments.
No, it's by the
That's
bridge.
canal.
By the bridge. What's the street? ¿Cómo se llama esa calle?
The
Division?
Division. Yes, it's like a block farther going south. Yes, it's always empty there because there's no houses. It has a sidewalk and everything. So I was talking to Rick. Well, we're gonna use valet parking. Maybe we can ask the city when it's needed. Of course, there's a lot of hopefully customers coming into the restaurant that we could use that for parking cars. I understand the reason why they didn't do it before, because they didn't want it to walk. They were just intruding the neighbors, because I'm sorry, we're probably repeating this too many times, but the parking lot for the restaurant wasn't even used for the customers. They were using it for personal usage. So that, I think that's just what happened, because as far as I know, these complaints came out to be in the last year. I think that's when they started parking their cars there. We were not aware. They were probably receiving citations and complaints, but not the owner, Victor. He was the one leasing the building. Until they closed the restaurant, we found out all these problems, and now they couldn't grandfather that to the new owner, even though we try to promise and make commitments, but they definitely said, no, we can. It's only 30 people for the restaurants for the amount of parking spots you have. I mean, 30 people is not gonna make money to pay for expenses and the maintenance that building needs. Just in the property taxes, they just got raised.
So right
Howard,
now,
are you familiar with where that spot is? Do you know, Howard, do you know where that spot is that they're talking about?
It's probably that parking area right next to the canal.
Yes.
that,
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Well, which I mentioned here was the Grove Street parking, which is in the valet ordinance. I like to speak up a little bit about the enforcement, because I had the alderman contact me for the last 2 years about that property, and I went, the mayor's office went to speak with the owner, and they said they were gonna fix the problem, they were gonna fix it, but they never fixed anything. So it was also frustrating for me, because the 2 aldermen for that ward contacted me numerous times. And they mentioned that, any new restaurant coming up will need to go through a parking variance, because there was never a parking variance done to the prior restaurant. So it was a use that was allowed, but parking was never reviewed. And now the problem is, according to the 2 aldermen, you have lots of residences there that are offended, when they come home and they don't have a parking spot in front of their building. And then you have those 2 businesses, the Fruiteria and Danny's Market, that also have people parking on the street for their businesses. And then you have other commercial businesses like Repair on Vermont. So depends on the time, the day, the afternoon, the evening. So that was the concern. And this is why we're here right now, is to have this discussion about parking in a public, open manner.
Howard, the storage facility that is just east of the proposed restaurant, I think it's actually for sale. It's across from the park.
Yeah, let me look at
Is
it.
that a possibility for valet parking there? There's actually a lot for sale and a storage facility. It's actually a parking lot about 1.5 blocks east of, maybe 2 blocks east of the proposed restaurant.
Oh man, that will solve all of our problems.
Yeah, there's actually a
What's
storage
the
facility
address?
and parking lot. It's across from the park. Before you hit to the, obviously before the Walgreens and before the bridge.
Do you have an address?
I don't know the exact address. It's on the south side of the street.
Uh,
Howard, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, as you're talking, I'm on my phone looking at it. I see the, I know what you're talking about. It's that,
It's a storage facility. It is across from the park, Centennial there. It's further east. It is on the south side of the street. It's actually a lot. Okay, it's like a parking facility, empty lot, and a storage facility. The gentleman is retiring and had the building for sale.
Oh, is it? Oh, that would be amazing.
so is it between Winchester? Is it at the intersection of Winchester and Vermont, the property?
Do you have that address so we can look it up? We can even.
It's, let me see if I can find it.
Right now, I can buy right nothing, because I'm making my application for 1.5 years. You know what I'm saying? I can rent the restaurant. I can do nothing. I can fix in the restaurant.
I can even sell it.
Because I give you my architect, he give you for
Plans.
my plans, and my partner Dan Ryan, he give you the license and everything.
Right.
No opportunity to fix it right now.
Me and the
I-
former
1 year and
building
a half.
official, me and
It's
the building
And
official.
I'm
before,
trying to put rent the restaurant, And nobody, I know, I can rent a restaurant. I
It's
can.
called Vermont Self-Storage. Okay, Vermont Self-Storage is the name of the facility. 1705 Vermont Street.
A ver, let me look it up. 1705.
1705 Vermont. Obviously, it's a little further. I mean, it might be 2 blocks or so. I think that's correct address. Is that the right address, Howard?
I'm not sure. I'm looking on my phone. I don't have the best reception here. But getting back to that, me and the former building official, Brian Polis, we had this discussion while La Serena closed with you. And we also walked over to the parking lot that you were proposing, and we told you at that moment, you can't have parking in residential area. And then last year I had a conversation with your son about the same situation. The situation is this: the parking has to be resolved in one way or another. There maybe needs to be some type of conversation with your attorney, with the valet ordinance, and proposing a plan and have discussion with the city. This valet ordinance goes to the city clerk, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of the city clerk, I guess, the representative of the city, and
The property you can say is my partner. Is that Dan Ryan?
Oh,
Martin.
it's the empty lot we're talking about, the 1705. It's owned by Martin, and he's retiring.
And the inspector, he said, no, it's too far. You can use it that way. I'm trying to whatever solution.
We were trying to buy that lot from him, but
When are you looking to potentially open the restaurant?
Pardon me?
What are you trying to target?
Target as in,
When are you going to open for business?
restaurant.
when are we gonna?
What are you looking to try and open? I'm curious.
This year, of course, because COVID and everything and all the work that has to be done, this is probably something planned for next year. I would say for spring.
Okay. That definitely gives you all enough time to work out all your details.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that Vermont place is right next to the highway.
Yeah, it's the Martin Navarro. When I talk to you,
That's
I can
too
use it
far
this
for
parking. And you
zoning.
told me, no, you can use it that way.
Right, and that's even further than the other parking lot we were
It
looking
is,
at.
but if it's a valet parking, I don't know, it's about 2 blocks away.
Right, but you have to also keep in mind
And I'm,
the district, the zone.
Yeah, but I understand all your concerns and everything, but you gotta think this, the way I see it. This restaurant was approved by the city 14, 20 years ago. I mean, we were not there when this was allowed to proceed to. We bought the restaurant with all this, let's say, benefits. Now that we're trying to fix it and everything, we came up with all these problems. We inherit these problems. I understand you guys couldn't grandfather it, but at this point, what can we do? Do you want to see a vacant lot over there? It's going to cost a lot of garbage. It's going to cost more problems than the ones that he had before because it's vacant.
So I proposed, and I've mentioned it several times, you could have like a hybrid lot. You could have like a mini market and a restaurant.
A mini
You have
market is
retail-
not going
when you
to
have
work.
retail,
There's
that's
one
like
across
can
the
I ask you
street.
something? The
go
mini
down.
market. I'm gonna ask you something. The mini market at the website. You
There's
give you
two there.
okay. You give you a license and everything. He no have parking. It's a lot of restaurant, a lot of business. No have parking. It's all the. And I'm told you, I'm trying to give you something.
Right, but you're in the
Lucio,
C2. The
pero-
C2 requires the parking. C1 is the one that's exempt.
You told me. You say, oh, put the free market. The free
I
market.
said do a hybrid, do like half market, half restaurant. That's going to reduce your parking because the parking is four seats equal one parking space. When you start adding so many seats, the parking starts to go up
But the mini
exponentially.
market,
Retail is one.
and there's one another across the street. So that's not going to make money to pay not even the expenses. Forget about taxes.
Right. So
I'm
so
paying
this is the reason why
20,000.
we're having this meeting, and I can't steer you, I can't give you advice.
And
The
you
only
told me,
advice I can give
you know
you
what?
is
It's not me.
applying for a
You told
parking
me, it's not
variance.
me. You told me, no, it's not my fault.
It's
The alderman, he called me and he said, I don't know what he said. I mean, what is the alderman? Yeah, the alderman, he making complaint for the parking. I can give you nothing right now. And you know what? I'm trying to clean the restaurant. It's closed for 1 year and a half. And I can rent, I can sell, I can do nothing. You take my hand.
Can we,
And I'm
Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if we could maybe take the next step of getting the valet parking review, so that we could kind of at least take it to that level of knowledge and sharing, so that we understand what that looks like for what they're recommending.
That would be a good idea, but from what I'm listening and everything that's going on, there's nothing that they have solid to really issue to approve this application.
Well, it doesn't need to, do we have to approve this application today?
Well, we have,
Or
no, we don't. And they don't need it to set in motion the things that are necessary and then bring it back to us. I mean, we're sitting here hypothesizing, if he goes down the street, across the street, up, whatever, the ordinances are what they are. And, you know, it's not for us to really solve his problems for him.
Right, but there's the proposal on the table, I think, to take a look at what their valet solution looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at it, but they're going to have to turn around and come up with some solid plan. So our recommendation is
to
there.
allow us to use the lot on 1705 Vermont, which is his partner owns, for valet parking, because that one can fit more than 20 cars easy, I think.
Only I can tell you something, really. I'm promised, and when I'm finding something, right now my solution is use valet parking. I don't have other solution right now because not have close to the building. So I'm finding other lot is for 20-something thousand. Is I want to buy this property for my employer. Really, I'm trying to give you, for customer, for the city, for the employer, more better for everybody. The bathroom, before you have only, I told you, 1 seat. And I'm making architect for making for 3 seats or for mains too. Really, when give me opportunity, when open to the restaurant, when I'm signing, and all the time I'm trying to give you more better for customer, for everybody. This is my idea. I don't want to stop for something.
Yeah, we understand that, and we empathize with you on that, but we have to have certainties. I mean, we come up with whatever the recommendation will be tonight, that might change by next week. You see what I mean? So, Howard, what is your feeling on this?
I think the best thing is to table it at this moment and have the attorney present an application for a probable valet with the information requested as a test run to see where are they looking specifically. And then once we have some agreement between the city, if they're going to use the Grove Street parking, let's say for 20 parking spaces, then this could come back.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Well, let's cover for the rest of the members the valet application that you have submitted to them.
So it's very simple. Since they couldn't make an agreement with Danny's Market, hence the reason why there's nothing here in this application about shared parking with the parking lot across the street. So since we didn't have anything like this, the attorney decided to just go for a straight variance for parking on street or elsewhere, a 2-block radius. This whole thing about the valet, it's usually reviewed at the building permit process, but from what I'm gathering, we're at a point where we're not sure if the valet will allow for this type of parking to work harmoniously with the community, or the question is, does the board approve the 8 parking spaces And then it's up to the valet application to do everything, to go over everything. Because they are asking for 8 parking spaces right now. Straight variance with no recommendation to park elsewhere. Because if they did, they would have provided that plan. I suggested my point, do stack park in the park little cars on the street. But Danny's is a good idea, but since, we have no solid agreement here, and then this whole VLA, that's usually done at the end. So it's up to the board on how you want to decide. As it stands right now, this is an application for 8 parking spaces.
I'm not clear where those 8 parking spaces are.
Well, in theory, what happens in zoning, if they can't provide parking on site, they're asking for a variance to park on the street. In most communities, that's a standard procedure. The problem with this community is you have an intersection that's very busy. They're all competing for the same parking spaces. And then we have 2 aldermen that are very serious about the parking also. So that complicated everything. So hence the reason why we're here.
So what I think I'm hearing is the request for the 8 parking spaces does not sound like a reasonable solution for this location. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, it's reasonable versus, let's say, 20 parking spaces on the street. Yes, they were able to go from 100 seats down to 72. What a person could park on that lot, maybe the most is 10 cars without any valet service. So we're between 10 and 18. So that's the reason why we have the 8 parking spaces for variance. I suggested 15 and 3 on the street to lessen the parking on the street. That was my suggestion. However, the board did bring up, like employees, and we have a performance of dance plan and the patrons. So this might be a bigger issue than 8, but I can't say anything or provide any other evidence.
I'm interpreting that this is more than 8 as well for the employees.
The restaurant have license before for 120 people.
Right.
And I know
Hence the reason why we're here today, because of that.
No, yeah. The license is before the 120 people.
We went down to 72.
And right now I know it's a lot of parking, whatever, and I'm trying to make a solution. This is why I told you. I'm making an application for, and I have, because it's for 72 or 78 people. Right now you have license for 120. This is why give me opportunity for 78 people or something like that. When I'm find more parking later,
we'll increase.
and I want agreement when I'm open more parking. The license had before 120 people. Now I'm reducing for 70 something because this is when I'm using valet parking. I can park in only 20 people or 20 cars. You know what I'm saying? When I'm find other property to buy it, I'm buying it. Don't worry for that way. Then told you the license before for 20 years this restaurant have it for 120 people, and I'm reducing for 70 something people for only 70 people. So 17 chairs or something like that. Sorry for my English. And I'm told you the license have before 120, and I make an application for 70 something people because only for Friday, Saturday is when the people is going to the restaurant. It's not for Monday. It's behind to the week. This is why my solution. Okay, I have only this space. I'm going to use it valet parking, and I can use it only for 70 something people. This is why I make an application. The restaurant had before 120 people the restaurant, and I'm reducing for 70.
Mr. Chairman, how do you recommend we move forward on this?
I think.
Can I jump in to say one thing on
Sure.
a legal point that Kimberly, is that your name, Miss Byrne? I apologize.
Yes. Yes.
The codes, as I understand them, contemplate employees when they come up with the numbers to correspond to the seat count. So
For one, yeah.
for one, that takes into account the employees that will be at the restaurant. That's already factored into it. So, It's
Of the
not that there's,
72?
it's not that there's the employee problem on top of the parking problem. That's within what's coded for.
So within the 72, you're including employees. Is that correct?
72 seats corresponds to 18 needed parking spaces under the parking code.
Right, and under the parking counts calculation, uh, whoever created parking engineers, when he created this number, also took into account the staffing at these places. Not
So within those
necessarily,
18 parking spaces will be employees parking as well?
Yes, that was my point.
right, because some people might come in one car, some might come in separate cars. So they have that factor
Okay.
where it could be plus or minus.
Okay.
Now, Howard, let me ask you this. The proposal where you have the 15 cars behind the property and the 3 parking spaces on the street,
Yeah.
that's your proposal to them?
Yeah, that's my suggestion, because the attorney and I, we went back and forth with this on the phone, and we were looking at all different types of places to look at within the 250 radius to allow for the parking, technically to be parked off-site, but once you pass 250, then it's not even contemplated or allowed by zoning. So they went across the street, they went to Sanders, they went to St. Donatus, and everybody turned him down, unfortunately. So he was left off with nothing but, I need to park on the street. We're not gonna park in front of the restaurant, but we'll park in a 2-block radius is what they're promising. So yeah, what I suggested is just, I guess, saving 5 parking spaces on the street would be parked behind there, but they would have to relocate their dumpsters. They would have to make it work. I'm just proposing my idea. I'm not a civil engineer.
We've discussed
Is there
relocating the
the
dumpsters.
construction company behind them? I think it's like Do Right Construction.
Yes.
And do they have any parking available? You know, if it's a construction company, I'm assuming they're during the day hours and they leave
Yes.
their workers.
It's just an office in the morning. Say they more than actually Mr. Martin, the owner of Done Right, is Victor's partner. They're business partners in Chicago. They own another couple of properties, and actually Martin was the one that sold the restaurant to Victor.
Yeah, that way, he's my partner, and I'm a license for contractor too right here.
If you guys need something written from Mr. Martin, we can more than definitely have it for you guys.
And
That ain't no problem.
If there's parking there, you know, if we're talking about 8 parking spots,
But is it parking indoors? Are we
I'm sorry?
talking about indoor parking space at this construction next to it, right behind it?
is there any outdoor parking spaces available there?
No, it's, the building occupies the whole lot.
Okay, I didn't know if the fenced-in lot, if there's any parking available anywhere.
En la calle, y en la banqueta, porque como que se puede parquear arriba para 5 carros.
According to Victor, I don't know the details on this, but I guess they can park on the sidewalk, and also on the street is approximately like 5 spaces.
5 or 6 spaces.
Well, let me ask you this. Well, what he proposed, which would give you 18 spaces, would that help you get started right now?
Yes. We need to get it open to pay those property taxes. They went over $20,000.
That would be a huge help.
Yes.
As I said, that we're flexible. We were willing to do, however you're able to accommodate us, we will accommodate you.
To me, that makes more sense because you're surrounding your own building and you're not infringing or asking or trying to plead with somebody else to allow you to park cars there.
And I think, well, this is my own opinion and what I heard when I went to this. I guess the neighbors were actually more concerned about garbage and being dirty on the sidewalk, being grease on the sidewalk, more than anything. That's what I did aggravate them. We're promising we'll keep it clean, we'll keep it in order, we'll keep it professional looking. Because they weren't even complaining about rats. These people were not even cleaning their dumpsters. So it was a lot of things that lead these people up. I think they will love to see some movement in there, because that's gonna bring money into the city. That's gonna bring sales taxes. It's bringing property taxes. So, I mean, it's gonna look better over there. I think so. That's what I think. I mean, now that the economy, the way it is right now, we want to produce.
Right, but the zoning board of appeals cannot approve a variance because of financial means. It has to be associated with the hardship of the property. The property does accommodate for parking. You have the trash dumpster that needs to be relocated, and Kimberly also mentioned about the opportunity of parking vehicles in front of the building. So you see, that is the hardship that we're dealing with, the property. Parking on the street, it goes back to just anybody parking on the street. If the board feels comfortable with that, they can, but you can't park on the sidewalk. I know the one across the street, Fruiteria, has parking on the sidewalk. I'm not sure how that came about, but we don't encourage people to park on sidewalks also. So you have to
Right.
keep that in mind.
I got it.
On the street.
Yeah.
Sidewalks are meant for
It
walking.
was assumed because it's paved and
It's
everything.
not sidewalk. It's
Not
a
just- it's a
big,
spot.
it's a spot. It's big.
Right, your parking spot in front of the building. Yes, I got
It's
it.
parking in the.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything else to say about this? No other questions? Howard?
I have a question.
Sure.
And this is for either the attorney or the owner. How current are your taxes paid?
Repeat that.
Your taxes, the property taxes, have they been paid in 2018 and 19?
2018, we paid 17,000. Right now, we just got the letter that they went up. We still haven't got the final bill, but they increased the value of the restaurant. So when they increased the value of the restaurants, the taxes went up a lot. I can find that paper that submitted with the application so you guys can know exactly how much it went up.
Because this is one of the criteria is the taxes have to be up to current standards.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's asking if they've been paid versus how much they are. He needs,
Yeah.
he needs proof.
Don't worry for the taxes, for the
They're up to
whatever,
date.
whatever balance the restaurant and pay for that way. Don't worry for that way.
They're up to date. We're,
No, nothing excuses. That one and pay whatever he wants with the
Yes.
city.
Because it looks like Cook County doesn't have any information for 18 and 19. Hence the reason why I'm asking this question.
And I'm
we
paying.
can provide,
I can provide.
proof
Don't
of
worry for
payment.
the taxes. For the money,
Zoning
don't
Board of
worry.
Appeals feel comfortable with this answer?
I would like to see some documentation. Maybe the attorney can provide that for us. Documentation showing that the taxes have been paid.
We will forward that when it's available.
So I would prefer to have that before I vote on a variance.
I can,
Okay,
I
So
can try.
I feel much more comfortable knowing that was paid before we vote on this. I'm all for you opening the restaurant. I think I agree with Kimberly. You know, we want to be as supportive as possible. And I think everyone's trying to work with you to kind of solve that problem with parking. You know, everyone wants the business to be welcome in Blue Island. You know, I don't think that's the issue. It's just the, you know, making sure that we address the parking issue and a few other logistics. In this case, Howard brought up the taxes being paid, et cetera.
no, thank you so much. And don't forget, I'm gonna buy. I'm finding one property loan for 20,000. It's a cheaper behind to the restaurant. The problem not have a street, and I'm gonna buy this one for my employer. And really, thank you for the opportunity to open the restaurant. Really, I'm gonna try to give you more better for customer, for employer, and for the neighbors, because my neighbors is my customer too. I need to think in that way. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying? My customer is every day my neighbors, because the other people outside is only for one day a week. This is why I want to my neighbor more happy, because he's my customer.
We look forward to continue to work with you to help you find a solution and for you to achieve this goal. But I agree with Michael. I think we're not quite ready to vote on anything.
Right.
I think there's some outstanding information potentially.
Okay, I agree with all of you. Howard, what is it? Can you just list for everybody exactly what they need for us to turn around and come up with this approve.
I guess if you're gonna table the, this meeting, this hearing till the next scheduled hearing, the first one would be, taxes have to be paid as best as possible, because we understand about the COVID stuff, but 18 and 19 should have been paid. 20, we understand.
I'm thinking I
Taxes
have
are
this one for Monday, or no, Monday is a holiday, no.
Taxes are
All
paid.
they have to do is get you the proof that they paid it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, next
And
week,
I have to demonstrate it to the board here, you know, I'll send a copy that the taxes
I
are
can
paid.
try
and
to,
all the bills are
I
paid.
know 18 for a fact is paid. 19, it's only because the whole thing, it doesn't come out until August, but at least half of it had to be already been paid. I can try to have that as soon as Monday.
If you guys can just get him the information that it's paid, then he
Yeah.
can present it to us. That will satisfy everything, I believe.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I'll check myself on the website.
And then the
How,
second,
what else do they need?
so the second one looks like it's a condition with the valet that, from what I gather from the board, you want the restaurant owner with the attorney here to start the procedure to apply for a valet parking and to
Yeah.
start providing a plan.
Right.
Right.
We're gonna park on site, maybe 10, 11, 12 cars, and then we're gonna park on the street to allow for people to drop in and off. And where are they gonna park off-site? Will it be on a 2-block radius? Will it be on private property, which cannot be around residential? It has to be in a commercial area, when I mean private property, commercial, and a city lot that's used for, you know, extra hours, you know, like in the weekends, in the evening. Does that sound fair?
I'd like to voice one concern, a question I have, and maybe just you can provide us with some guidance, because I want to know, or at least have a suggestion. Should we be looking to solve the problem totally to get to the amount of spots we had with a valet, or is it even a possibility to solve the problem partway and then have a variance for the spaces for which we don't find a solution?
So from what I gather here, the variance application was for 8 parking spaces on the street, right?
That's correct.
I guess this board doesn't feel comfortable at this moment to vote for it, so they want to see an alternative.
Okay.
You're going to be providing valet service one way or another with Danny's Market, stacking, parking in a 2-block radius. This board feels like you should go the extra, I guess, mile and start to submit the application, register that contractor with the city, contractor registration form, submit the application so it could start to be reviewed by the city clerk's office in conjunction with me and other people in the city. So, you know, maybe we'll continue with the variance next month for 8, but we have assurances that 20 other parking spaces are going to be reserved for worst case scenario. Then I feel this group might feel comfortable in granting you an 8 parking space variance on the street.
Howard, is there any restaurants, is there any place in town that has valet parking currently?
Not that I'm aware of. The only example was the Blue Island Health Center. They leased the parking lot from the city. That was
Sure.
the first example where they actually leased a property that was kind of next to their property. It was in a commercial area, so it was fine. This would have been the second one if they had, let's say, a lease agreement with Danny's, which the zoning board would be reviewing as part of the application process for, you know, relief on the property, but you have it across the street. But since no lease agreement was submitted because Danny has some reservations without the brother participating, we couldn't even do that. So it's kind of like, we're kind of like in limbo in the sense that there's no agreement, yes, but they're applying for a parking variance on the street.
So now you got those 3. Is there anything else that you need?
No, so far I only have 2. I have the taxes and the valet application. What was the third?
A little confused for the contract for valet parking, because wherever company he said, when I want to start, to use it for my contract for valet parking, and I can tell it's nothing because 1 year and a half no have permit for fixing the restaurant.
We'll work on that, Victor.
Oh.
We'll work on that.
So if you can get those things to satisfy the city and something concrete, you know, a lot more firmer than what it is, a better idea, then we have something to work with. Other than that, everything is just speculation and we just can't, you know, it's difficult to
Was
approve.
there a third thing besides beyond the valet application, the taxes?
Not that I can recall.
So it's only two.
Okay.
So yeah, the way I would look at it, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1 would be on-site parking, right? With a valet area next to the building.
Mhm.
Step 2 might be Danny. He might give you 8 parking spaces. Step 3 would be worst case scenario, 20 parking spaces with the city. At least if this board sees that there's a discussion and you're finalizing on some type of a valet for across the street and down the block on a public lot, I think this board will feel comfortable in granting the 8 parking space variance if people do park on the street.
Can you repeat that one more time just so I have it clear? I'm sorry.
Well, what I gather what this group wants to see is the different steps of insurance.
Yeah.
First, it would be how many cars can you provide on site? We agreed 10, maybe 12, 13, 14 with stacking, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be the valet company that's going to make that determination. This is what I guess the group wants to hear. Second, Danny's Marketplace, lease or no lease, contract or no contract, how many cars can you park there? 5, 6, 7, 8 parking spaces with the valet company also doing that. And then the third step would be the parking lot that's on Grove Street near the Water Reclamation Center or Water Aeration Center, where you have lots of parking spaces that are sitting there vacant, not used. And that could be used for valet parking. So it would be step 1, the building itself, right behind. Step 2 would be Danny's. Step 3 would be a parking lot.
Okay.
Are those 3 different proposals?
Yeah, I'm just very confused because it seems like I mean, if we could get 15 spots in the lot and Danny's has a couple, then our problem is solved. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, what I'm looking for is a concrete sort of proposal. This is what you plan to do. That's what I would be looking for.
Exactly,
Okay.
because that's going to become part of the variance itself.
Right.
We can't put in there, if this doesn't work, then the next thing is going to happen and we can do this. And it's got to be specific, and we're going to be specific. And if you can't meet
Right.
that recommendation, then you're defeating your own purpose. So. That's the
Does
only
that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
The only question that the attorney has is we can't modify an application as we go ahead. Either they officially abandon this parking variance for 8 parking spaces and come back to the zoning board with a new application variance for parking off-site with the valet. This is where I think Scott is going with this. We can't just modify it.
If there's no objection, we'd like to keep it tabled for now rather than abandon it.
For the 8 parking spaces at this moment.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Okay.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we kind of take a recess until the next month's meeting to give you time to get everything that you need to prepare to present to the city, then they can present it to us. That's a little bit more concrete than what we have now.
Okay.
Is that
Sounds good.
agreeable with you?
Agreeable.
So the next meeting will be Thursday, August 6th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. I'm saying this purposely because I have to mention it in the meeting. Whoever's watching this live can follow up in the next meeting. Again, Thursday, August 6th, 2020 at 7:30 on Zoom. or at the East Annex building, because I'll be here again to be accommodating any person that might be walking in. So now we need a count, a vote count, you know, for, you know,
Yeah.
to propose to table it to August 6th.
Right. Do I have someone to make a recommendation?
I recommend that we table this request for variance until the next meeting on Thursday, August 6th.
Do I have a
I
second?
second it.
Roll call, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Clifford Griffin,
Yes.
Jeff Atwell, yes. Kimberly Byrne,
Yes.
Mike Sinde.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the motion carries.
So we'll table it for now and we'll reconvene next month and hope that you have everything that we need together by then.
Thank you to the board for your time tonight.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Good discussion with everybody. Thank you for your time and the details. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, everyone have a safe holiday and we'll see you next month.
You too, say,
Have a good one.
happy Halloween.
Happy holiday.
Thank you.
Do we need to?
Motion to adjourn.
No, because we're tabling it till next month.
Okay, well, in that case, happy 4th, everyone.
Happy
Yeah.
4th of July, guys. Thank
Happy
you.
4th.
We'll see you next month.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.